All right, so when we're going over the pre-algebra review week 1 worksheet here, excuse me, and we're changing repeating decimals to fractions. I know it's a little hard to follow the steps. They actually follow the exact steps from the video, the lesson that I gave you guys, but we'll go over it here. I know it's a little confusing still. So if we have the decimal 0.42424242, first thing we want to do is figure out what is the repeating part, okay? So in whatever the repeating part is, we're going to write it a certain way, and we're going to set it equal to n. So the repeating part here is the 42. So we're going to write it 42 just one time and put the little line over the top. So we've identified what's repeating, 42, 42, 42. Okay, next we want to move the decimal so that just the repeating part is in front of the decimal, right? So here we have to move the decimal back 1, 2 spaces. So in order to do that, I have to multiply this whole thing by 100. And whatever I ever do on one side of an equal sign, I have to do the same thing to the other side to keep them equal. So I'm going to multiply this side by 100. And once I multiply this side by 100, I get 4, 2. And then that decimal keeps repeating, right? So I still have this behind there. If I took this decimal and moved it over 2 spaces, it would be 42.42424242 and keep going. All right, so now we have this. Now the next step is to get rid of this repeating part, right? Which is this up here. So in this next step down, we kind of look back up here to see what n is equal to. So I'm going to get rid of this repeating decimal just by subtracting it. So I'm going to subtract 0.42 repeating. And on this side of the equal sign, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to subtract that, but instead of writing it this way, I'm going to write what it's equal to. If n is equal to 0.42 repeating, they're the same thing, right? It's like saying 1 paper dollar equals 4 quarters. They might look different, but they're worth the same thing, and you can interchange them. So here I'm subtracting 0.42 repeating. Here I'm subtracting n. They are the same thing. Battery's going low. All right, so once I do that, this becomes 99n equals, and then 42.42 repeating minus the repeating part just leaves 42. Okay, and then the last step, the last thing we had to do was divide both sides to get n by itself, divide by 99. So once we do that, these cancel, and we're left with n equals, and it's kind of hard to write here, but 42 over 99. And we can actually simplify that. You do not have to, but we could divide the top and the bottom by at least 3, right? So if we did that, we would get 4 on top and 33 on the bottom. You can do that. If you did it, you're not wrong, but I'm not expecting you to go that extra step. Okay, let's do number 12. It's the exact same steps, the same thing. So here, if we identify the repeating part, it's just the 3, right? 3 is what we see over and over. So n equals the 3 with the repeating thing over it. Okay, now I have to move whatever's repeating in front of the decimal, which means I have to move the decimal 1 space back. So to do that, I multiply this by 10. And whatever I do on one side, I do to the other side of the equal sign. So I multiply this side by 10. This becomes 3.3 repeating. And now I want to get rid of the repeating part, right? So I get rid of 0.3 repeating. This side, I get rid of the same thing. Remember this step up here? They're the same thing. So whether I use this or this, it doesn't matter. They're both worth the same amount. So minus 0.3 repeating, minus n, same thing. 10n minus 1n is 9n. Bring down my equal sign. This repeating portion cancels out, so I'm just left with the 3. And then I can divide both sides by 9 to get n alone. So I'm left with, these cancel, n equals 3 over 9. And again, you do not have to simplify that, but if you did, you'd get 1/3. You could divide the top and the bottom both by 3, and you would get 1/3. So this, either one of these would be our final answer here. And for number 11, either one of these I would accept as your final answer here. I hope that made sense. They're following the same steps. Maybe I could have written that a little different, but that's how you change a repeating decimal to a fraction.